everybody. So this is the Hallmarkies podcast, and this is our 8th episode of Chesapeake Chats, where we're talking all about Chesapeake Shores on Hallmark Channel, and the 8th episode of the 3rd season. And I'm Rachel, and Lisa is here.
Hi, guys.
Yes, so we've only got 2 episodes left of the season, and this is the big episode where we have Megan reading the book. So it promised to be pretty exciting. So let's just dive in, and we'll kind of share our overall thoughts as we go. I think it's probably the best way here.
Okay.
And
okay.
the thing I want to say up front is that, we just have to be honest with what our takes were. And if you loved certain things that we didn't like, let us know in the comment section and on Twitter, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. With the inspection going on at the inn, and we find out that the inn is not only have termites, but it is like a complete teardown of termites. Like, this is like the whole foundation. This thing's about to fall to the ground. And what did you think about this, Lisa?
I thought, okay, termites, and then I thought there's going to be something else that pops up when she goes down. I did not think that it was going to be, because the preview from last week, when Jess was like crying to Mick, I don't want to lose my inn, I was like, okay, it's going to be something just she cannot come back from, or we think, or so when termites, I was like, okay, this is the first step. But then she comes back and she's like, no, for real, this is total teardown. And I was like, wait a minute. I try not to build too much real life into these things, because I know that a lot of this is for the drama. But wouldn't that have come up on her inspection when she bought the property initially? Wouldn't they have inspected underneath and saw that maybe all these joints were eaten down and they were all basically termites holding hands? Also, like keeping the place afloat.
Also, like, termites are disgusting. Like, you would see if they were so bad that they literally were affecting the structural integrity of the home, then you would not only see wood damage for sure, but you would also, like, they're really gross and they would be everywhere. And especially someone like Jess would definitely have noticed. And you have to have like some kind of like debris or decay or wood damage of some kind. And I guess they were like trying to show that last week with him like kicking up against the wall like that. But that's,
I never even put 2 to 2 together that was part of it.
But it's most like places like an inn, I would have some kind of bug, quarterly, yearly,
right,
at least spraying your house, like,
yes,
just for spiders and ants and whatever. Like, we ran vacation rentals, and we had every quarter the Orkin people come, and so, like, the only way that this, like, it is technically possible that a house can be rendered structurally, it loses structural integrity because of termites, but like, right, it would usually be something like there's a decaying log pile, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't seen anything like that in the house, and it would take a long time, and for sure they would notice something. This is people that are like super, I don't know, these people are super negligent of their property and their home, and this was so absurd. Like, what?
I mean, I just really thought, okay, in commercial real estate, there's a due diligence process, and I figured at some point somebody would have requested either those reports, like, hey, what's the old appraisal status of the building? Has it ever had any, that's part of it. But I was like, okay, I'll take this with a grain of salt. And I thought, okay, it's gonna roll into something else. But no, that was it.
Ugh.
Termite. I mean, I know, I'm not saying that they're not serious. For all the people that have suffered with termite damage, I'm very sorry. I'm not
Yeah.
belittling your situation. I'm just saying, I really thought it was going to be, honestly, I really thought it was going to be Alexandra that had come back and like
Well,
secretly bought the place from under her or
yeah,
something. That
I mean, I thought like, or like, honestly, how amazing would it have been, even if it had been completely absurd, if Alexandra had like somehow snuck the termites in or something like that? That would have been so fun and like delicious and ridiculous and fun. And so I
yeah,
tweeted that out yesterday, and the like one of the producers or whatever was like, I
right.
don't think that Alexandra has access to that kind of bug to cause that kind of bug infestation. I'm like, oh,
I don't know. Her family owns all of Boston. I
this
bet
is
she
just,
does.
but this is just proof to me that I want this show to be something that it's just not. Like, if
Yeah.
he has that kind of answer to something like that, just shows that they don't want this show to be dishy. They don't want it to be over the top. They don't want it to be fun. They want it to be sweet and sincere and whatever and romantic. And that's fine. It's just not doing it for me on a weekly basis.
I would
And
have been okay with that, except in the first season, we had so many dramatic
yeah.
storylines. Like if it would have just initially, but in the beginning, if Kevin coming in like barely hanging on to life, and
Yeah.
like we find out Jess almost died on her senior trip, all these things, I just
Yeah. And
it felt like it was headed that way.
yeah, and even like Trace with his accident, like that was at least a little interesting to me. With him like
Right.
dealing with like that feeling of and having struggled to get on the road again. Like that was something, you know. More, it was
Yeah.
better than any any conflict this season. And but even with it being completely absurd and them completely ruining the Pecs and not monopolizing off of that fun situation they could have had, I could have been fine with it. But we'll talk about, the solution to the problem. And it was super romantic, and we'll talk about it, but like Jess is not allowed to struggle at all. And like, I mean, you said like what? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, she's a grown woman, and she, like, it's totally fine if like they want to give her a place to live or like figure out a solution or whatever, but like why don't you show us her struggling and her learning and her growing as a character? I think the
Right.
actress is up for.
She broke down with Mick. If we can go to that scene just real quick, since we're talking about Jess, when I I mean, that scene to me was really incredible. I loved her performance in that scene.
Yeah.
I was very, very upset for her because at that point we weren't sure yet what the situation was going to be, if it was going to be resolved, if this was going to be leading up to a cliffhanger where she's without a place to work and a place to live. And I just, just, this was my one chance to be successful like everybody else. And that's me. I mean, failing again. And I just, God, I felt so bad for her character. It
Like
was so heartbreaking.
I'm
And
sure that termites would be covered in like home insurance. So, and she
right.
still has the land. So if she really does, if it's a complete teardown, then you just see her struggle with that and like struggle with
Yeah.
dealing with the insurance and like I don't know, just
Right.
something that's interesting. Like see a character grow and learn. It
Well, because she
was
was all that
devastating,
way.
but
Because when David came back and she was like, maybe I don't need you after all, and I was
yeah,
doing fine without you. And I was like, yes, she's growing into herself. She's learning how to run the inn. And then I thought, okay, here it is. She got this high and they're going to knock her off and make her rebuild herself again. And yeah, I was very, Jess is one of my favorite characters though. So that's why I'm like,
yeah.
yes, let's watch her.
I
Let's
don't know.
watch her
It was
too.
frustrating. But anyway, so we got one of our breakfast scenes, which are some of my favorites, and you totally had I thought that. I mean, I do love Andrew Francis. Everyone knows that, but I thought that he was pretty strong in this episode. He was one of the highlights. I thought Connor's character, both with the things with Danielle and the scene with Bree, which we'll talk about. I thought that overall Andrew Francis did the best job, I think, this episode.
Yeah, he looked like he was getting his confidence back, after
Yeah.
leaving his big corporate lawyer position. He kind of, was floundering, wondering
Yeah.
what to do, it felt like. And then the knockdown by, Mick and that whole fight, it felt like,
Yeah.
he's just kind of lost a little bit. And so it was nice to see the arrogant, like,
Yeah.
cocky Connor back, which is funny. I like him.
Because he's learned and grown as a character, and he's not perfect. And I mean, it was just really funny. He was like, "Oh, is that applause for me?" Because they're planning this party for Kevin because he wants to be he graduated the EMT course, but he doesn't really want to party. But then we find out that Megan has read the book, and we get her slamming the door and telling Bree that, if you think that this is who I am, then you do not know me at all.
Which I felt that in my bones. That was a
Yeah.
major mom move, and I was just
Yeah, I really I liked most of this, and Barbara Niven was great in the role. And I think that the whole idea of sort of them having these different perspectives is interesting, because that's a true thing. I mean, they even talked about like witnesses in a trial, and it is true that like if you're questioning a witness in a trial and the person tells the story exactly the same way every time, then that's like signs that they're not being honest, because that's not like a human. They're just reciting it, because it's
right.
human nature for everybody to see things in different perspectives, and even each time you tell it to be slightly different. And this time I'm going to talk about the black shirt that he wore, or this time I'm going to talk about the shoes he was wearing, or whatever. And so anyway, I like that idea of them having these different perspectives and them kind of coming to fruition. And so there I have, and I guess I think I'd like it more if I had confidence in the show that it was really going to pay off and it was going to be handled
right.
right, but I don't. So anyway, we'll talk some more about that. But then we get Trace coming in to Chris and Mick and claiming that, well, first he's like, why can't we have open mic night, and why can't we do all this stuff? And like, it just boggles my mind, because you're talking, like, he was like, oh, this is supposed to be a place for like small bands and stuff like that. Like, the way that he is pitching it, he himself and his band would not be able to perform at the Bridge.
Would not be welcome at the Bridge.
No, because like, what? Like, I mean, if you really believe there's all these paparazzi and stuff out, which we've been sold the rest of the season. So
they've forgotten about him, and he's in one place now. They could just stock out the entrance to the Bridge.
Yeah, that's right. I know. And so like, he's running a business. Chris and Mick know how to run businesses, and yet he still wants to go out on the road. So he should be grateful that they're like, okay, we're going to take this off your hands, and we're going to allow you to still do your singing, and this will be great. He should be grateful. Like, what does the man have against waffles? That's what I wonder.
Anybody that denies breakfast food is the food of all day. I don't approve. Trace. No.
Yeah. And this is some like established place. What's that?
The punk place, CBGB's before.
Yeah, right.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Something like that like people had, it's like he's talking about it like it's the Grand Ole Opry or something like that, like it's like this institution that been around for generations, and how dare they? And you're like, what? This is just like a little bar in Chesapeake Shores. And like, Chesapeake Shores is not like, it's not like it's Nashville, you know what I mean? Like someplace it's like huge music identity, or Memphis or someplace like that. And like, they should be perfectly fine like having big bands and serving waffles. Like, what? I just can't.
I'm going to say right now that if I bought tickets to a show and I went into the club and they were serving waffles, I would be pumped.
Yeah. You could even have chicken and waffles. They could make crab cakes and waffles. You could fit waffles into any meal.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess part of me just, I know it's, again, drama because maybe they're trying to build Trace up as a leader, and this is where he makes the decisions to stay so that way he can have full control over the club. Fine. But there seems to be no compromise. Why can't they just, I know he said we still get to have, open mic night. And good old Chris, Mr. Waffles, is like, no. But I mean, one night a month, a couple of nights a month where you profile local talent, I don't see anything wrong. I mean,
Yeah, that
I'm
kind of
with you
stuff
though.
they could
In
work
the end,
out.
I'm with you. Like it comes down to, it's a business.
Yeah.
We're here to make money. And I think even Chris says it. We're not a charity. We're not running a charity. We're
Right.
trying to make money here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. This
Trace,
isn't
get on
like,
board with that.
yeah, this isn't like the music store in Wedding of Dreams. Like this is a restaurant, whatever, bar. Like that's the key. And like Trace is the one who screwed up. He's the one who made the problem. And Mick and Chris are just trying to clean up from his mistake. He should be grateful. Ugh.
And why haven't we pursued the storyline of getting this guy that stole all this money?
Right.
That
Yeah.
would be interesting. You could put Connor on the case. Him and Nell.
Oh my
Go
gosh, I would
suss
love
out
it. Yeah, that would be amazing.
suss out.
The only part I liked about this whole thing was the fact that uh, the actor Giles Penn, he was so funny on Twitter. He was
When he turned around and smiled, oh, and Waffles, I died laughing. I just
yeah.
don't want to be that joyous about anything.
He was a delight, and we actually interviewed him. But he was just so funny on Twitter that he's like, Trace is an idiot, and we're like, yes, we agree, and we're like, we're team Mick and team Chris. And he's like, good choice. Smart choice.
100%
and I
agree.
have not been anti-Trace. I've not been on that bandwagon. I don't have a problem with Trace. I don't have a problem with him wanting to be a singer. I defended him against all the mom guilt. I think that's ridiculous. But like when he is being nonsensical and being stupid, I'm gonna call him out on it. And so it's just crazy, ridiculous.
I'm with you. I would be very excited if someone said, here, let me help you make more money at this club while you go make money pursuing your musical dreams.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Plus waffles. All you can eat waffles when you come back in town. Yeah. Yes. Where do I sign?
Right.
Done.
Me too. Sarah and Kevin eating lunch, and Sarah became my favorite person because she was finally somebody who says that Philadelphia, Chesapeake Shores, and New York aren't that far apart. 2 hours, no big deal. I'm like, I love you,
right.
because I just like, we talked about this last time, so I guess we don't need to go over it a ton, but like, it's true that you can, taking transit, go from Philadelphia to New York City in an hour. And I found this whole article about about what's called super commuters. And super commuters, there's 627,000 super commuters in New York alone. And this is where any part of your commute takes you over 90 minutes each way. So this Philly wouldn't even qualify as a super commuter unless you're driving, which takes an hour and 44 minutes, according to my and so so this is just not a big deal, because it's not even like if he's working in New York City, she's in Philadelphia, like they can see each other every single day if they want to. Like hundreds of thousands of people do it every day.
Right. I mean, people do it from where I live currently, work in the city, which, New York, they go every day and come back because it's cheaper to live in Connecticut. I mean, I personally don't think I can do it, but that's just because I don't want to sit on a train for 4 hours a day, but it can be done. People do it all the time.
Yeah. So Philadelphia is, I guess, the 5th highest super commuter city out of going to New York City. So and I found this article about I'm a super commuter between Philly and New York City, and she talked about all why she did it, she does it, and everything. And she says Philadelphia is my wife, New York is my mistress. If he got the job in New York, she got the job in Philly. First of all, they could, if they ended up getting married, they're not even engaged yet. If they ended up getting married, they could live in like Trenton, which is like right in the middle.
Halfway.
Yeah. Hey, perfect. They could live in Trenton and it'd be no problem.
Yeah. My issues here were two things. One is they're sitting there at lunch and basically Sarah's like, oh yeah, I start next week. Hello? Really? Like, there's not a conversation at all. They've said the I love yous. It's not like, or it's not, they weren't just casually dating. They finally made the leap to I love you.
Yeah.
And there's no conversation about who's taking what job and making plans. I mean, she just I'm glad for her. I mean, I think that speaks to, hey, do what you got to do, and girl power and all that. But in the end, they both claim to be like into the whole thing, and I was struggling because I thought, not one conversation about should I? What would you like me to do? I mean, I'm going to do what I want to do anyways, but I'd still like to hear your opinion. And then, yeah, it just seems like a in the end, it seems like a non-issue because it's not that far apart.
No, it's a non-issue. And
I'm just hoping that it's not a prelude to him not being on the show anymore. I know they haven't announced a season 4.
Yeah.
But I just hope it's not a way for Kevin to exit the series, in terms of, well, he'll work in New York and then maybe eventually there's some one-liner, well, he moved to Philly to be with Sarah, and then they're both gone and that's it.
Yeah,
That'll
because I've liked their characters and this season pretty much, but I just don't like this conflict. This conflict is so dumb. I just can't. Maybe it's just because I grew up in Maryland. It's just too like ridiculous for me. I can't suspend disbelief. We have this whole thing between Abby and Terry is asking Abby for advice on this deal she's thinking of making for Miss Marvel cleaning products. And I thought that, so I have no problem with Abby being kind of rude and struggling with jealousy. That's totally fine. My problem is I feel like the show was trying to justify her jealousy, trying to justify her actions as being blunt and honest. And somehow that she was like, that was like the bold thing to do or something. And I don't think so at all. I think that, so here is somebody who is in your life, whether you like it or not. She's coming to you for advice, even paying you for said advice. You should not be rude like she was, saying, well, if we were friends, let's just imagine. Like, that was so rude. She was so rude, I thought, throughout the whole thing. And again, I have no problem with her being rude if she's learning and growing as a character. But I do have a problem if we're expected to applaud that. And I totally felt like they wanted us to.
I didn't, when she first said it, I thought, okay, she's trying to bypass the awkwardness by making a kind of like a sarcastic joke. But the more she talked, I was like, I need you to tap on the brakes there.
Yeah,
ma'am. Because she is coming to you with an issue, and I feel, and maybe it's not jealous, because originally I thought they're not going to pull the jealousy on her ex-husband because that's not been an issue at all, and it would be weird for her all of a sudden to be jealous that her ex-husband's with somebody considering she's with somebody. And I thought, well, maybe it's the jealousy that this person that she looked up to for so long by reading the blog, now she's in her life, she's, this perfection is in front of me.
Yeah, it's not Terry's fault if Abby thinks that she's too perfect. That's like people that get mad at the girl in school who tries really hard. Like, oh, thanks for your teacher's pet or whatever. And it's like, no, they just studied and actually put forth the effort. Like, sorry if that bothers you. No. And they've given us zero reason to dislike Terry. There's nothing underhanded that she's doing. There's nothing, like, she has been nice to her children. She has been very cordial and friendly to Abby. She is coming to her for advice and counsel, and so I don't know, I just thought that Abby was super rude, and I was not a fan of that.
So can I just ask you real quick, just going back a little bit. So did they ever explain Terry runs Miss Marvel full time, or does she have another job on top of that?
No, I think that she runs it full time. I get the impression that they're trying to make her like the pioneer woman or something like that.
Right, which I'm all on board. That's great.
Yeah.
I think people that make a living by blogging is amazing. And yes, show me your ways, because
I know, for real.
But so she works at home probably, maybe with a small staff, but she probably works at home or works remotely. So of course you can do all that stuff. When you work on your own timeline, of course you can do all that stuff. And I feel Abby's, that episode when she was running herself ragged trying to keep up with the kids and do all that stuff. Well, you have a full-time job. I'm in awe of some of these moms around here that I know because of how much they put in at our mutual children's school. Unfortunately, I can't because I work full-time on time.
Right. Yeah.
So I can't, and I feel, but everybody has a different way of contributing.
Because like it's weird because the only real like working mom guilt that we've seen has been from Trace. like Abby is feeling competitive, but we haven't really seen her feel, I don't feel like that, like depressed or like she thinks she's a bad mother, and all of that could be fine and could be interesting and I could be invested, but I haven't really seen it really. It's been more like, Trace, why aren't you as involved as I am? Why aren't you, kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just
you haven't put a ring on his finger, Abby?
Yeah. Right. Anyway, so I did, like I said, I really liked Connor in this episode. I thought the whole scenes with Connor and Danielle, with this whole case or whatever, were kind of flirty and were sort of fun. Did you like that at all?
No.
Why didn't you like it?
I don't, because there's other people in the world that Connor can be with.
That's fair. I'm reaching.
Because if Sarah goes to Philly and Kevin goes to New York and they can still date, then Connor can spread out to a 100-mile radius and find someone else to date besides Danielle.
I don't think he'd have a problem on like eHarmony. I think he did really well.
I mean, not that Danielle's not super cute. I really enjoy her outfits. I do. When she comes on screen, I kind of make a mental note. I think I want that in my closet.
It was just kind of pleasant, and I don't know. It
was cute that first season when they were taking the bar together and they'd look back at each other and giggle, and I thought that's cute. But Connor, I want some real dramas.
Who would I?
For you and Oh, somebody on Twitter, Angela. Angela.
Oh yeah, Angela. Yeah.
She said, "Why not with what's her name? The girl with Trace.
Lee,
because they had their moment in the first season. Why can't she come back in and?"
That could be really interesting. I'd be fine with that. That would be a really contrast and somebody different that he'd have to learn to work with, or they could bring in somebody interesting. I mean, I guess Kimberly Susted is going to be in the next 2 episodes, is what I heard.
I'm sorry. Could you say that in my good ear? What happened? Who? Kimberly Susted's coming to Chesapeake Shores? Are you kidding?
That was the word on the street. Who knows? The next 2 episodes. Caroline Moss.
I am so flippin' excited. Bring it on.
Chaos reigns with the closure of the bridge. The O'Briens are at war over Bree's manuscript. Kevin is heartbroken visiting Sarah's she's going to be one of Sarah's family.
Boo. Maybe she'll make a play for Kevin.
That would be good. I'd watch that. Okay, so yes, we do. Let's see here. So I just said, if Trace really is as famous as the paparazzi segment suggests, then he can buy Mick out and run the bridge as a failing business, as his heart's content.
It's a failing business.
Go for it. I don't know. So okay, so uh um so then we had, I thought, a pretty nice scene, probably one of the better scenes of the season, if you ask me, was this scene between Bree and Connor at the bookstore
Yeah.
talking about growing up and their experiences with their mom. And Connor says, I don't remember the fighting all that much, but I do remember hiding in the bushes with Jess a lot. So
Yeah.
thought that was
They both,
pretty well done.
I know, and they both got teary, and then she went into his little brotherly nook, and it was very sad. Like, you view your parents one dimensional for a very long
Yeah.
time, and you don't really appreciate that they are actually were full people before
Yeah.
they became parents with their own emotions and struggles and whatnots. And I think it only gets stronger as you get older, and not to say that this has to be part of it, but it certainly does add to the fact when you have your own kids and you start to realize, oh crap, I'm in charge of these tiny people and I still feel 12 myself. What is going on? And you kind of realize more and more like how your parents did it all, and you think,
Yeah.
God, we all don't know what we're doing. We're all just, it's all smoke and mirrors. And so I feel that that was a little bit step in that direction. Connor was trying to lead her and say, look, that's when they start talking about when he starts talking about the interviewing witnesses and stuff. And I just wanted her to reach to the screen and grab Connor's face and say, yes, yes, exactly. It's a
Yeah.
hard thing to wrap your brain around until you
Yeah.
get a little bit older. And
It's true. I think you do reach a moment in your, like, I don't know, in your 20s or whatever, you that the because it's hard because your parents for so long are the authority figure. And so like it's
Mhm.
so easy to call it hypocrisy at authority figures. Like, how can you tell me to blank when you did this, or you are doing
Right.
this, or you're imperfect? Like, how can you be the boss of me? And sure, as a parent, you recognize that more than I do. But yeah, where you do realize that, like, oh wow, like they were just people trying to figure it out every day. Like,
Yeah, your parents have the same feelings and frustrations and hopes and devastations and everything just like you, and drama, and oh my gosh, I like this person, do they like me back, all of that. And
yeah.
you lose sight of that for so long because you don't know that part. You just think mom and dad, and that's it. And then you reach a certain age, you're like, oh, they were actual people,
Yeah. Well,
not
and
just
the truth
parents.
the truth is too is that I do believe absolutely that you have to acknowledge problems and talk them out, and holding them inside will just eat you up alive. For the most
Mhm.
part, you can go overboard, but for the most part, I believe in being honest and truthful with your emotions, and then you learn as you grow older how to deal with those and how to make progress. And but on the other hand, like, if you're bitter about another person, there's really nothing that other person can do. Like, that's why the Bible says, like, you are commanded to forgive everyone, because that grudge and that anger is only hurting you. It's not
Right.
hurting Megan. I mean, aside from it making her feel sad, but as far as, like, there's nothing Megan can do about it. It's happened, and the past is painful and it's hard. But I love the movie Saving Mr. Banks. Have you ever seen it?
Once,
Okay.
yes.
I mean, it's about Walt Disney. Hello. I mean, I'm a huge Disney person.
Right.
But there's a great scene in that movie where Walt Disney is talking about his dad. And he's talking about how his dad made him deliver newspapers 3 times a day in the bitter cold, every day, and how he would get, the rough end of a belt if he didn't do it. And
Right.
he says what I love so much is that he says that I don't tell these things to make you sad. And he says, I love my dad. Nary a day goes by that I don't think of that little boy in Missouri, in Kansas City, it lost in the snow. And he says, Miss Travers, I'm tired of remembering it that way. And that I'll never forget. That was just, when I first heard that, I just started to cry, because I think that is such a true thing, that you hold on to these things and they just like make you so bitter. And you do kind of have to reach a point where you say, I'm tired of remembering it that way. I'm tired of living my life with this like weight on me, and I need to forgive. And I think that that's what's happening with Bree, is that Bree needs to forgive.
See, and I was hoping for a lot of this between her and Jess, because, you know, at the beginning of the series, we just saw so much of Jess's pain, and I was hoping that, you know, eventually we would touch on the both of them, because they seem to be the ones most affected, just because they were part of the younger crew, and probably Connor.
Yeah, Connor
in
as
that
well.
too. And I agree. And we, you know, we guessed their ages at one point, and so they're probably still in their 20s, all of them, correct? Like, I think that's how we established.
Except for Abby, I think we said that, and Kevin, I think they're in their 30s.
In their 30s, and then the rest are in their 20s. And I feel as though, you know, it comes with age. Not to say that their characters are young and goofy, just saying. I became a lot more aware once I hit 30, and now that I'm in the fourth decade, I call my mom and I'm like,
sorry.
Oops.
That's why I really struggle watching movies about like coming of age movies, like Edge of 17 and Lady Bird and movies like that, because I just feel so bad. Not that I was like that bad of a kid, but I definitely had my moments. And I called my mom, I'm so sorry. I was such a jerk. I was terrible. I don't know how you put up with me. I find them really sometimes hard to watch.
yeah, they really tug at me. I mean, I wasn't terrible. I didn't like get arrested or anything, but I was.
You should
pretty
watch those. You watch those with your kids, and you feel like someday you'll feel bad.
Any ideas? Yeah.
Anyway, I thought it was a really good scene with.
I loved it. It was one of my favorites. Yeah,
it was really good. Yeah, you see the funny scene with Jazz like storming out of the B&B. I wish that it's frustrating, because there was so much potential with the Pecks to either like make them interesting or to make them like way over the top and fun, and they chose to do neither. And so it just makes David so bland. He's a knight in shining armor. He's perfect. He always says the right thing. He doesn't even need to be paid for his efforts, his job. He's literally just like a manservant for Jess's like every whim. Like, I don't want a relation like that.
With it.
I mean, technically, it would be fun for like a month, and then I want somebody who has opinions. And it kind of reminds me of this one guy that I'm not gonna say I dated him, but I went on some dates with him, and he was kind of in my peer group for a while. And he absolutely drove me crazy, because he had no opinion. Like, nice, sweet guy, he really is. But for me, he drove me crazy because he had no opinions about anything. Like, one time we did this like charity auction thing, and I put up that I would make like 3 meals, and of course he won, and I was like, oh. I told my roommate, I'm like, you have to be there. I'm not going to know anything to talk about, because when people are like, oh, hey, what's your favorite movie? They're not like quizzing you. They're just trying to start a conversation. Like, you don't have to be like,
right.
You don't have to be like, I don't know. Let's weigh it out. And like, they're just asking you to mention a movie that you like, and then we can talk about it. No, back and forth. You're just trying to start a conversation. And yeah, he had no, he's like, oh, I like everything. It's all good. Like, oh. And so I asked him, what do you want for these meals? And he was like, whatever you want, just no mushrooms. I was like, like, what? And I don't know, I feel kind of like David is like a dreamier version
of No Mushroom Man.
Yeah,
just
no
call him No Mushrooms David.
Yeah, No Mushroom
just
Man.
No
It's like, have an opinion. Like, be like, you can be introverted and shy, but like still have an opinion, and I don't know, just be a person. Like, he's not a well-written character. He's just not.
I find him incredibly, charming and swoony.
Yeah.
But yes, there's not a lot for him to do, which kind of stinks because I really like Carlo Marx as an actor.
Yeah, me too.
And, he's obviously very easy on the eyes. So, yes,
Yeah.
let's have him on screen
I
more.
like all of
Um,
these actors. I do. I like every single person in this cast. I do. So for me, at least. And yeah, so then you have Trace meeting with this lawyer guy, and then you have Nell and Megan eating lunch, and Nell says the past isn't sitting still. Everyone has their own past and their own way of seeing it. And here's my thing that would be fascinating. And if I was writing the show, what I would do, have Megan write her own book. That would be so interesting, right?
yeah.
She would
Competing.
learn, and it would be interesting, and it would be interesting for Brie to read the book, and it would probably cause more conflict. And I mean, I don't want a whole season on a book, but that would be
Why
really
not?
cool, right?
We've already done a whole season on the book. We've had 7 manuscripts.
But I think that, wouldn't that be good?
Yes.
Right?
Well, I mean, it'd be funny if she just took a red pen and just started marking on every page her side of the story, and she gave it back to Brie and read this.
She could get Kimberly Sested to be the ghostwriter for her book, and she can write it her way.
Yeah.
Oh well. But yeah, that's when we get we get the passive aggressive meeting between Abby and Terry, which I was not a fan of. And we have more of Connor and Danielle. And then we get Trace putting in the papers, the contract or whatever. And I just said on Twitter, ugh. I agree with Nick. Yeah,
is this when he gives the
papers? The papers. Yeah, I said I agree with Mick. Trace is behaving like a moron. So
well, it was a very, very Silver Fox hot dad moment when Mick was like, "You don't want to do this." I was like, "Yes, I do, Mick." Oh wait, you're not talking to me. Dang it, you're talking to Trace.
Announcement that Kevin is going to New York and that Sarah will be in Philly. And Sarah, meanwhile, is like, that's fine. We'll be fine.
Yeah, she's like, bye.
Yeah, all of us are like, yes, we agree. It'll be fine. This meeting between Abby and Terry, where she explains that this is, I guess, a bad company, that the products, like, I guess the one product is going to be organic, but then the other products aren't going to be organic or something. I don't know. And she's just like, would you want to go into this business? Like, how do you feel about it? And she was kind of Socratic methoding her on it. And yeah, my comment was, I'm confused. Does the show want us to dislike Abby in all of this? She's being kind of awful, if you ask me.
Right.
If the show wants Abby to be a flawed character struggling with jealousy, then I'm all about that. But I didn't get that vibe from the scene at all. Terry is asking for help. And then somebody said, I loved Abby's honesty. That's the sign of a true friend. And I said, I like the honesty, but I feel she's being kind of mean about it when Terry hasn't been anything but nice. It's not her fault. Abby finds her too perfect. Like, did you agree that wasn't, like, she wasn't being refreshingly honest, in my opinion?
They tried to couch it that at the beginning when Terry said, Wes said you'd be nothing but honest. Great, they're right, because that's what we've heard nothing about Abby. That's the only thing we've ever heard about Abby in her career, that she's this like hard, nosed, honest, doesn't matter, just going to tell you the truth, which is great. But I agree with you. I felt it tilted a little too much on the condescending side, like just kind of aggressive for no reason. I didn't understand the shortness. I don't know. The whole thing just played very
passive aggressive.
Yeah, the whole thing just played very odd to me when it could have been a very sweet moment.
Yeah.
Trying to bring those two. I mean, in the end they come together, but it felt like pulling teeth to get it to that point.
Yeah, I agree. So then we have a scene between Megan and Bree. Bree says, I mean, uh, and Megan says that, it wasn't as easy as you made it seem. And so she says, I wasn't well, Bree. If I had stayed, I would have brought you all down with me. So that's obvious. And she talks about how she didn't even get out of bed after she had Jess. And so they're obviously implying some kind of postpartum depression, which could be really interesting. But here's the thing. If she truly had no visitation and no custody at all, like, the only reason that would happen is if she was unfit to parent, basically decided by the courts as an unfit parent, did not get any visitation at all. I mean, it's not like she was, the kids were like spending Christmas at her house or like spending the summers with her or something like that. She had no involvement, is from all I can see, from all they've told us. So she had no custody of any kind. So either she was seen as an unfit parent because of these things, and I find it very hard to believe that the show is truly going to dive into that. We'll see. But it would have to be very severe if she was truly found to have no visitation with her children. And the other thing that could be the reason is if literally Mick was like the worst bully ever and didn't allow her any contact with her children, which I don't think they're going to go either. So for her, or third choice, she just didn't want any contact with her children, which she says, of course, she doesn't. It was about love. So it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I've had a lot of feelings about the potentials of Megan's backstory for a very long time, pretty much from the first moment they introduced her character into the series. And not knowing until now, at least a small part of what happened, it's hard to fully, like, explain. But I've felt a severe like with kinship with Megan, because it's overwhelming at times. And I've told this to people before. I was very, very lucky. I had a little bit of postpartum depression, but it wasn't that intense. I was very lucky in my situation to have a lot of support.
Yeah.
But I could see how it would very quickly delve into something else. And it's one of those things where I tried to explain to somebody. I said, you don't know until your kids are there, and then you have kids. There's no, I'm going to return them to the store. I don't really like that. It's a done deal. And you don't know how you're going to react. You don't know how your body's going to react mentally, physically, emotionally. You don't know any of those things. You don't know how it's actually. Everybody's an amazing parent until they become parents.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Everybody's like the best parent ever until they actually become parents. You're like, holy crap, it's real. And this is what I wrote about Megan. And I said, I feel so much for her, the character Megan, because knowing that you'll never be able to explain fully why you made the choice you made and or sacrificed so much, knowing you'll always be the mom that left, and that's it. You'll just always be known as the mom that left. It's so painful. Knowing that you're making that choice, knowing that it's never going to be, no one's ever going to know how you feel about it. And society's pressures on moms in general, your own expectations and mom guilt and everything kind of rolled into one. And at that point, I also feel like there was a point where Mick probably felt really angry that she left and resentful. And there was probably some, well, then you just can't see them.
Yeah.
Bitterness, which, like I said, this is when I go back to, we're all real people, not just one-dimensional parents. And I'm sure that it was a very hard, lots of fighting and for me, if she left and got better, I can see immense guilt and shame of not wanting to go back, not knowing how to explain to her kids, especially if her kids are, even if they don't, deep down, obviously they were very, very traumatized. You can tell Bree, and like, we just wanted you.
Yeah.
But
It
thinking,
seems
if I
like they're
go back and
living.
ruin it,
Yeah.
they're settled, and then I go back, will it fall apart again? Am I going to be the reason that falls apart again? I'm already damaged. I already left. They're in a better place without me. Maybe I'll just stay away.
I guess it's just surprising to me that she wouldn't want any custody, that she wouldn't want any, like, I don't
Oh,
know,
I
like,
guarantee that she did. I just don't think it was ever. Mom guilt is a very big
yeah.
thing, and I can't even imagine being put in that position. Again, what I was very lucky in my situation.
Yeah.
Um, I there was a good year there, but
Yeah.
again, I was very lucky.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. And I haven't had postpartum because I haven't had any children, but I've definitely struggled with my own brands of mental health. So I can appreciate what you're saying. I it's a little frustrating that, on her Twitter, she says, I have written reams of backstory, but they are not conveyed in the time frame of the scenes we've shot. Megan
Yeah,
left because she and Mick were always fighting, but he wouldn't let her take them with her. She left out of love.
right.
So, I don't know, like, it's just kind of, that's frustrating to me. If that's the case, and she
Yeah,
has all of this backstory and wants to delve into the character more, and they're not doing it because of time, when you have all of these stories that aren't interesting at all, and here's a story that's actually interesting. Think of all of that time that we spent with Simon and Bree and the book, and we could have had some scenes with Megan maybe reading her old diary or something and talking about,
yeah,
like, wow, I was really in this just dark space, and
right.
I just wasn't, it wasn't safe for me to be around you, or I was just feeling so insecure or unhappy or something. We've just gotten this one line about her sleeping all the time, and after she had Jess, and one line about her not being well.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess if I had more confidence in the show about how it's handling conflict, I would be more interested. But I do think that the core idea is good, and Barbara Niven is very good, and she was
Mhm.
very moving. And I think a lot of women like yourself would be able to relate to what she was going through. I guess it just
Oh,
surprises me a little bit that she wouldn't have had any custody at all, I
I
guess.
legit cried during that scene because it's just so painful. Just the thought
Yeah.
of the choices that sometimes you have to make.
Yeah.
I mean, not saying that everybody has to suffer through the thought of
Yeah.
separation forever from their children, but just the thought of all the choices that she made, and you're just doing the best you can at the time.
Yeah.
Nobody's given a guidebook on how to
Yeah.
be a
Well, and
parent, but you're
plus,
right. I mean,
it,
it's an odd thing to think of not once, and I want to see more of that. And I agree with you. It was frustrating to read that tweet only because if there's so much backstory, I'm like you, I wish we could have explored it earlier in the season, got where we are now,
uh-huh.
like in episode 3 or
Like,
4, and had the rest of the season to.
honestly, if this is really true and that Mick wouldn't let her be with her children, and he wouldn't let her take them with her and wouldn't let her have any custody, then like her kind of, I feel like her I felt like I feel like, like, since when they're just sort of sitting and it was like, is this a date? I don't know, whatever. I feel like
Yeah,
that would be way more like crazy and hard to deal with. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm like, this is happening or something,
right.
like that would have had way more weight. But anyway, it is an interesting thing. And like, it is true that when dealing with mental health crisis in our lives, that it can seem like everything is going perfect, especially to kids. They can see it and be like, your life is great. Like, you had everything. Why do you throw it all away? Where like in your head, everything is just swirling. And
Right.
I remember when I've talked a lot on this podcast about when I finally quit this job that was just making me miserable. And
Mhm.
On the surface, people probably thought I was living the dream. You know, I was working for a family company. I had benefits. I was going to grad school. I was living in this apartment with very nice people that were super supportive. My roommates and I got along great at that place. All these things were positive. And I remember my mom saying to me one time, like, you've faced so many trials. Like, why is this especially hard? And I remember saying to her, every other thing I've ever gone through, I could see the like light at the end
Mhm.
of the tunnel.
Yeah.
I can't now. There's like this black cloud over my life. I don't know how to make it go away. And it
Right.
just was there. And I just felt like I was incapable of feeling joy. And that was
Right.
brutal. And it wasn't until I got out of that situation that I finally said, enough is enough. I'd had a nervous breakdown. I was like, this is it. I'm done. I'm leaving. And I quit my job, and it was a really empowering moment for me. And I just promised myself I will never allow myself to
Yeah.
feel that way again, ever.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so it's super easy to judge someone like Megan and be like, how could you leave 5 kids and be
Exactly.
a mother? You don't know what's going on in her head.
Right. And that's part of why I feel so much for her, and I have since day one, is because there had to be a lot for her to leave. And again, she'll always be, no matter what, the mom that left.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Like just very quickly, I had a job like that too, where I physically became ill going to the job. My anxiety was at an all-time high. I was in the peak of some, depressive situations, and I couldn't do what I was doing anymore. And I took a huge pay cut and I left, and it made all the difference in the world. But in leaving, I left a group of, kids I was, working with, and I couldn't really tell them the whole thing. I wasn't in a place to tell them. And plus, it's really hard to explain to kids and admit all these things to kids.
Yeah.
And especially because there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff with other colleagues that was happening. And I just felt like I cannot talk bad about the people I'm leaving to these kids, because they're still with these people. And I can't be all, well, you don't know what they did to me, blah, 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 because, well, then I'm gone. And these kids are left with these opinions of these people that they don't know that side of them. They're not on the working side, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I couldn't leave them with my bad impressions out of revenge or something, because that wasn't very fair. And so part of me feels like maybe there was a lot of really bad stuff with Mick and Megan, and she felt like, I can't tell the kids that's their dad.
Yeah.
That just makes me sound even more pitiful and revengeful if I just go on about her dad all the time and how terrible he is.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
So
it's a hard thing. Everybody's situation is different, but,
right.
and you have to also consider the fact that this would have happened in the 70s, 80s, which is a different era of mental health. Like,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
different time. And I mean, now we're talking like way further back, but my grandmother had a without airing too much dirty laundry, she had a truly horrific traumatic event happen to her as when she was like, I don't know, like 19, 20, something like that. And they never talked about it ever again, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until she went through a bout of pretty severe depression when she was in her 80s, and all of that stuff had to be dealt with that she'd been holding on and not dealing with since she, for 60 years. It doesn't go away. It doesn't,
Right.
it's a fascinating thing. The human brain is fascinating. Anyway, so yeah, it's pretty, I really appreciate you sharing that. And I
same
think,
with you. I mean, it's hard to speak about it, but I'm glad we are,
yeah. And yeah, we'd love to hear your guys's, if you're listening, your guys' thoughts about Megan and about the story. I do think it is, it took a long time to get here. And I totally agree with you that this should have happened in like episode 4. And we could have had like 6 episodes, like digging into this and really like meaty, with this and learning about her life. And
I would
So,
have sacrificed some Traby drama. Sorry,
oh my
Travis.
gosh, yes. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see what will happen. So
In the
Mick
next 2
gets,
episodes.
yeah, Mick gets the transcript, the manuscript. And then we see David's Christmas time, because Jess says, "Oh, I had all this plans to do Christmas at the inn or whatever," and so David sets up this magical Christmas land. And what do you think of that?
It was cute. I'm not gonna lie. It was
Yeah,
cute because David's cute, and I just think it's charming. But
yeah, it was cute. But I don't know. I just wish that they were more dynamic characters.
yeah,
I just wish, but oh well. But Jess did say I love you, so there's the big I love you. So
yeah, and he gave her a card.
yeah, he gave her a card. Hopefully Hallmark card.
Yeah, read the card. She's like, I love you. No, you're supposed to say it first. Read the card. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we get to Kevin's party, and then you see Marie and Mick talking, and this was another really strong scene of the episode, where he says, "Bree, we all did the best we could. There's no guidebook on how to parent," and that was really, really good. And you see Bree feeling really bad, and he says, "You can't publish this. You can't publish it." And so, and she finally kind of admits, I think, that the book is about them, is about the family.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I went to a book reading for an author named Haven Kamel, who writes delightful books, really good. They've been memoirs, but they definitely are very honest, but she has like a witty sort of sensibility about her writing. So like they're honest, but like not like mean spirited or anything like that from a reader
Right.
perspective. Anyway, Girl Named Zippy is her first book, and it's delightful. And it was interesting at the book reading, somebody asked her, like, how did your family feel about this? Because her dad is prominently portrayed, both good and bad. Her mother, both definitely good and bad. And in that case, there's no like, it's them. Like,
Yeah.
she changes a few names, but it's her mom, it's her dad. It's not like
Right.
this where it's
Yeah.
a fictional story.
Right.
Anyway, and what was really interesting, because she's had all the success and she's had a bestseller and everything like that, and they asked her, how her family reacted, and she said it wasn't pretty. It was tough there for a while. And she said, they asked her if she would do it all over again. She said, no, absolutely not. I would not. Which I thought was really interesting, that it was that. Yeah. So I don't know. That's got to be a tough situation. And I've thought about it because my sister's a published author. She does picture books right now. She'd love to do a novel. But if I read, as I've been watching this season, if I read her novel and I was like, oh, wow, she has this terrible older sister, I'll be like, oh, that's awkward. But so I don't know. I don't think she would ever do that, but you never know, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would react. I don't think I would say don't publish it, because I think I love her enough, and like we've communicated enough. And I think maybe that's the problem, is that all of this had never been communicated.
Right.
All of this baggage and grudges and frustration and everything. Like my sister and I, we know each other.
Yeah. Well, and part of me wonders if Mick sees a lot of, it's very one-sided, obviously. It's from Bree's perspective, even though it's character Bree. And I wonder if he sees a lot of where he looks like the hero, knowing that he had a huge part of it. And he's like, yeah, no, this is like, maybe he knows deep down inside, like, yeah, this was a lot of very, very hard times between me and your mom that you have no idea about and you shouldn't know about. And this is our personal business and you're putting it out there for everybody. And I also feel like Bree thought that she had an ally in Nick, that she could go to him and be like, see, this is what I'm writing because you were there, that the 6 of us, or 7 of us, I guess if you include Nell, with the 5 kids and Nick and Nell, we all had to band together and get through this, and you'll see, and that way you can talk to mom and let her know, like, sorry, this is the truth, and we were here, we lived it. And he reads it, he's like, yeah, no. I feel like she thought it was gonna be real easy, that Mick was just gonna be on her side, like thinking that because he was there that he would see everything exactly her way. And he's like,
yeah, she did seem really taken aback that he was a big fan of the book. She seemed really surprised.
It was, this is what I've been waiting for, for 3 seasons now. And so to finally see it come to fruition, these people are so incredible too, the way they played all these scenes. And I'm very excited about that part. I'm anxious about how it's actually going to play out, especially with only 2 episodes left.
Yeah, exactly.
And so many other loose ends to wrap up. I'm just,
yeah, I just want some explanation of why Megan didn't have custody and didn't try a little harder, at least, to communicate with these kids, like, especially now that she's been living in that area for quite some time. Like, why she seems, I don't know. Why did it have to come to this? I want a little bit of honesty from her character about that. I want to be able to understand her character a little bit better. That's why I think it would be so great if she wrote a book. It would be really interesting. And I want to see more about how Mick handles it. Like, just have Trace buy him out. Who cares? Don't even spend any time with Mick with that. Spend all the time with Mick and Megan figuring this out. And if there's forgiveness that needs to be had, that could all be so compelling. That's what I want to see.
Oh, can you imagine if they sort of pseudo started dating again, and then all of this blew up, and then they started like going back to their original like fighting style, just because it was all bringing up bad. Oh man, that would be like
amazing. Especially with like him being so suspect of Thomas and in the beginning. Like, that would be really good. And I think for him to say, oh, I left out of love, I want to know what that means to the character. I want to know what love means to Megan. I want to know I just want to know more. I want to dive more. I want to know more about the character. I want to know why she didn't try to get custody. I want to know why she didn't at least get some visitation. Is that because Mick stopped her? Is that because she was truly unwell? Is that because she was ashamed? Which it would be really interesting. So I hope they go there. But I don't know. All the problems and conflict of the season have been so brushed aside, so handled, that's what I'm worried about. The next episode, it'll be kind of like, by the end of the season, everything will be kind of tied in a bow and everything will be fixed.
Because, I mean, for all we know, after a year, she might have come back and Mick said, look, they're finally back to normal again, and you're going to come in here and disrupt everything again. Is that what you want to do? And maybe she felt guilty enough to be like, okay, fine, you're right. The best thing I can do is just stay away because I don't want to cause any more damage. And they're finally settled, but we don't know. And I hope we find out. I hope that's what she means by like, well, I left out of love because I knew that there was a chance I could screw it all up again. So I just said, okay, you're better with your dad.
But like you said, that tweet from Barbara made me really nervous, because I'm like, obviously she knows that it wasn't explored as well. But anyway, so hopefully people have found this interesting or edifying, or we share our stories, and if that's the only thing the show does, then that's a good thing. And if people are talking, I believe so strongly in advocating for mental health care. I think it's crazy that we have it as this shameful thing that you should be embarrassed about. You don't get embarrassed when you have a stomach ache. You should not be embarrassed when your brain is hurting and you're having problems. Like, it's ridiculous, and I have no tolerance for it. I mean, almost everybody goes through something like that. It's just part of being human, is to have a mental health crisis in your life, and and how you deal with it and your family, especially if you're going to have five kids for a family. Trust me, I'm from a family of 6 kids. It gets interesting, exciting.
Yeah.
So anyway, for me, my favorite parts of this episode, I actually liked Danielle and Connor. I thought they were kind of flirty and fun. And I liked that scene with Connor and Bree. I thought was really good. And I did like Megan, and I liked the scene between Mick and Bree at the end. I thought they were good. I was not a fan of Kevin and Sarah and the LA to New York drama. I was not a fan of anything with Trace, and the Abby thing I didn't like at all. So
the only thing that with the Trace scenario was Chris.
Yeah, I did like Chris. He was hilarious. So there you go. I hope you guys can go have some waffles and enjoy this week's shorts. But thanks for coming and talking with us about this. It was really fun.
I love it.
Good time.
Thank you for having me.
So where can people find you online?
People can find me on both Twitter and Instagram as Girl Gone Hallmark.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews on iTunes and on YouTube. This week on my channel, I have a review of Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. And that is such a swoon-worthy Hallmark film that you should all check it out. So there we go. But make sure you guys are following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod on Instagram and Twitter and all over social media. Let us know what you thought of the episode, what parts rang true for you. We will talk again next week. All right, bye.